You can't make this shit up. This is disgusting. Honestly, like, what does that look like to you? Come on, man. You're right.
What the fuck was going through your head?
Hello, and welcome to the latest review made by yours truly. Okay, I know you've been waiting a very long time for me to make something new, and I appreciate all of you being so patient. I want all of you to know that I love YouTube and I love to make videos. But it's not my #1 priority currently. That spot goes to college, which I start soon. I have no intentions of quitting YouTube, but it's mainly just a hobby to me, and I'm glad I made this decision because I would have been stressing over YouTube a lot more if I didn't just make it a hobby. I'll try to post more videos more often, trust me, since I'm finally out of high school, but please understand that again, it's not my #1 priority to make a new video every week or something like that. With all that said, I got a special treat for you guys today, and I hope you're sitting down with your favorite snack and drink, whatever that is, because this is going to be a very big video. I have so much to talk about, and I hope you're ready to listen. Today, I'm going to be talking about a game that is a complete failure of a crossover and gave both franchises featured a bad name. This game is not Fire Emblem or Shin Megami Tensei. This is Tokyo Mirage Sessions #FE, a game that supposedly features both series crossing over into one story. This game has been the bane of my existence ever since it was first revealed. I just refuse to believe that this was the same crossover that was announced all the way back in 2013. What happened? What is this game? And why do I hate it? Well, let's start with some backstory. For those of you who don't know about this game, and I wish I was as lucky as you, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a game that crosses over the universes of Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei. Originally, it was going to be a crossover between Fire Emblem and the Pokemon franchise. Unfortunately though, with the release of Pokemon Conquest, the idea was scrapped and the folks over at Nintendo were brainstorming for new ideas. Atlus came to Nintendo's attention offering a crossover with their beloved franchise Shin Megami Tensei. Nintendo happily agreed and released a video on YouTube announcing the new crossover game that was currently in development. The goal originally was to have the Fire Emblem cast be put into a post-apocalyptic modern-day Japan, the setting for most mainline Shin Megami Tensei games. However, Nintendo denied that idea and instead wanted to make it into a non-apocalyptic modern-day Japan while keeping the Shin Megami Tensei playstyle. Fast forward 2 years later, and a new trailer is released for the crossover title, only this time being drastically different to everyone's surprise. Everyone was confused, concerned, and to an extent even angry, and I don't blame them. You go from a trailer that promises a whole bunch of Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem characters crossing over, to a trailer that doesn't showcase any character from either series, all while playing the most generic anime opening music. You can play this song over any anime opening and it would fit just fine. I myself was pretty upset knowing that a game that had so much potential to be an amazing crossover was drastically changed for the worst. I wouldn't even be that mad if they just scrapped the original idea altogether and made this game its own thing without crossing over the two franchises. I refused to buy this game at full price during its original release. For the longest time, I've wanted to talk about this game, but I did not want to pay the full $60 plus tax to play a game I knew was going to upset me. Thankfully, Best Buy had a deal a while ago that put the game at half price. Keep in mind, it's almost a full year after the original release of Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and it's still priced at $60. That is completely absurd. This is a game that is worth at the very least $30. Xenoblade Chronicles X, a game that is objectively better than Tokyo Mirage Sessions in every way, is worth less. Does that make any sense to you? Anyhow, before I talk about the actual game, I'm just going to take a minute or two to talk about my experience with the game before I even played it. If you just want to get to the review, then skip to this part here. So I wanted to make this review very special. What I was planning on doing was getting some questions answered about the development of the game from Atlus themselves. Unfortunately, it didn't go as I anticipated. I sent them an email, and after a week of waiting, I gave them a phone call. Apparently, they've gotten my email and said they'd do some digging for me, which gave me some hope. Out of curiosity, I called Nintendo to see if I can get some answers from them. Nintendo stated that they didn't do much other than publish the game, and that I should contact Intelligent Systems, the creators of the Fire Emblem series. The only problem was that Intelligent Systems was based in Japan. So I pulled out Google Translate, typed up an email, and sent it to them hoping they'd respond, but I knew it was a very low chance of happening. A couple of days passed and I still have no answers from Atlus and their supposed digging up of the information. Surprisingly enough though, Intelligent Systems responded to my email, all while Atlus was keeping quiet. Intelligent Systems said I should get in contact with Atlus in Japan, and that's where I knew this whole journey would probably come to an end. If I wasn't getting any answers from Atlus in America, I highly doubt I would have gotten it in Japan. I sent an email to Atlus-based Japan, and not to my surprise, they didn't answer, and I still had no answer from the English company as well. I even called again asking for the same guy who helped me out, but they told me to just leave a voicemail, which I did. Unfortunately, that is where it all ended, and I didn't receive any answers regarding the development of the game. I mean, really, I just really wanted to know what they had in mind before the whole transition to J-pop. From the trailer, you can kind of see a grassy field, what looks to be maybe a bustling city, Shibuya, probably an apocalyptic setting or something like that, or maybe even before the apocalypse, and a giant moon above it. I mean, it seems interesting. It seems very interesting. But I guess we'll never know, guys. Sorry. I decided it was about time to play the game. A fair warning to those looking for a capture card: stay away from Roxio capture cards. They are awful capture cards that just don't work as they're supposed to. They kept crashing my computer, disconnecting me from my computer, so I had to redo the recording, and the audio codec doesn't transfer to Sony Vegas. Oh, and their technical support? Yeah, it's awful. Okay, let me explain what had happened. What had happened was, for some reason, I couldn't open the actual, recording software for Roxio so I can capture the game. So I'm looking to see if I can find my installation disk so I can repair the program, but I can't. So I go onto Roxio's website and ask, can you just send me a download link or fix the file or something like that, right? I would have assumed that my information was in the system because I've done it so many times and that they have just downloadable installation programs. But apparently they don't, and they wanted me to wait at least a week for a technician to get a hold of me. And it's crazy because all they had to do was go to the uninstall section and just repair the file. Do you have any idea how stupid that is, to go and uninstall a program just to repair it? Like, that's ridiculous. This capture card gave me such a hard time, and I highly don't recommend buying one. If you want a capture card, stick with Elgato. Because of this, I only managed to get footage from the beginning of the game all the way to the end of the first dungeon. Any other footage will be from a playthrough of someone else, and I do apologize for this. I actually did try. So, in order to understand what this game is and why it fails as a crossover, we need to first understand the two series featured. Let's start with Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is a series of tactical JRPGs that have you command your own army and fight against whatever evil plagues the land, or something like that. Originally released on the Famicom under the name Fire Emblem, Shadows, Dragons, and the Blade of Light, it was a game about a prince who lost his kingdom to an evil force and built an army to reclaim said kingdom. As you can imagine, the setting for Fire Emblem is usually medieval. You'll find yourself battling on large grass fields, inside of castles, on board ships. They're all pretty vast and differently designed with each game. Like I said previously, Fire Emblem is a tactical JRPG. You command units to move wherever you want them to move, plan out your strategies for battle, and have a whole cast of soldiers at your command. This kind of gameplay was very different during the time of its release, and it worked very well in Nintendo's favor. Unfortunately though, these games were never released to the West. It wasn't until the Game Boy Advance where the West finally got its first Fire Emblem game. At this point, the Fire Emblem series wasn't as popular as it is now. Sure, the games did fine, but it really didn't get a major fan base. That all changed with the release of Fire Emblem Awakening for the 3DS. This game changed a lot of things in the series, improved strategy and battle system, interactions between NPCs, ability to customize your own character. It was truly amazing. This game is what made Fire Emblem what it is to this day. It essentially made a very strong community of fans. Story-wise, each Fire Emblem game is different, but in one way or another showcase the actual Fire Emblem in-game. Like I said before, the original Fire Emblem told the story about a prince reclaiming his kingdom. As we progress further into the series, we've gotten stories about division of families and kingdoms at war, time travel and protecting the world from an evil dragon, gods dividing continents based on their beliefs, the list goes on. And I'm sure it goes without saying that these stories are very creative. Creativity and storytelling is a key aspect in Fire Emblem games, because I'm sure they would not be as fun if they didn't have a good story. Shin Megami Tensei is very different in terms of design and gameplay. Shin Megami Tensei is a JRPG that puts you up against monsters you can either side with or fight against, post-apocalyptic settings, a very well-made choice system that does affect the game's overall outcome, and of course you get some of the best and most memorable character and monster designs, as well as some kick-ass soundtracks. The first Shin Megami Tensei game, released for the Super Famicom under the name Shin Megami Tensei, is garbage. We're not gonna talk about that one. The first Shin Megami Tensei game released to the West under the name Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne was a great game. Let's talk about that one. It was a very different game than what was released on the PlayStation 2 at the time. It featured some of the best visuals and designs currently in any Shin Megami Tensei game. It featured Dante from the Devil May Cry series as a rival and playable ally, and was definitely a game that gave you challenge. Actually, that's the case with most Shin Megami Tensei games. They're pretty challenging, but that's what I like in a game. Challenge. Once you overcome said challenge, the reward in the end is just so satisfying. Nowadays, Shin Megami Tensei unfortunately doesn't receive as much praise as its more popular spin-off series Persona, which I definitely will talk about why I don't like this series in the near future. Gameplay-wise, Shin Megami Tensei has a turn-based battle system that revolves entirely around finding an enemy's weakness. Once an enemy's weakness is found, an extra turn is granted to the player to dish out more damage to the enemy or heal your own party. Boosting stats in battle is also a major key point in Shin Megami Tensei games, as they will be a determinant if you lose or win the fight. Your allies in these games are the same monsters that you fight against in the overworld. You can kill them for EXP or negotiate with them to be on your team. This negotiation system is what separates Shin Megami Tensei from most other JRPGs. You can also fuse your allies into stronger monsters, so it's highly encouraged you recruit as many monsters as you can for fusing. Shin Megami Tensei also had some very intense stories. The setting for most of them is a post-apocalyptic modern-day Japan. And when I say these games are intense, I really mean that. Bodies getting cut in half, eating your own enemies in order to survive, the world being destroyed and overrun by monsters. I mean, this is only the beginning of what Shin Megami Tensei has to offer. And you know what? I can really appreciate that. And I really do enjoy how these games were made for an adult audience. You don't really see that often, as most JRPGs are rated T instead of M. And bonus points for Shin Megami Tensei stories being unique and creative. Except for Apocalypse, that was an okay story. What I love also is how each spin-off series has a different gameplay mechanic. Raidou Kuzunoha has a real-time battle system, Devil Survivor has the same tactical strategy gameplay featured in Fire Emblem, the list goes on. The series is vast and different from one another, which I absolutely love. I love how there's something for everybody in this series. If you don't like this, then you can play that. There's something for everyone in this series. And if I had to choose between Fire Emblem or Shin Megami Tensei, it would definitely be the latter. So now we know what these two franchises are. We know Fire Emblem is a tactical JRPG placed in medieval settings. The stories are very creative and unique, and offer plentiful hours of gameplay for you to enjoy. We also know that Shin Megami Tensei is a JRPG that changes how battle mechanics usually work. It has some very unique but intense stories, built for a mature audience, and has some really amazing visuals and music. Like Fire Emblem, it can offer plentiful hours of gameplay for you to enjoy, and to an extent offers replayability. So congratulations! You've completed your history lesson! And now it's time to learn about Tokyo Mirage Sessions #FE. Or Sharp FE, whatever you want to call it. Just one more thing that I want to say before I start. Good RPGs are usually long. It's definitely a given. But for bad RPGs, they feel even longer. And I really couldn't sit through all of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. It never changed. It never got better. I had the issues with the capture card, so I had to re-record a lot of stuff, and I just couldn't sit through it anymore. With as much as I've played, I feel as though I've had enough information to critique this game. With that said, let's start. Taking place in modern-day Japan, Tokyo Mirage Sessions follows the story of Itsuki and Tsubasa. Or Tsubasa, however you fucking pronounce these names. Itsuki encounters Tsubasa at a talent audition event where she is hoping to begin her career as an idol. The host of the show is possessed by a hostile Mirage, and everyone in the building apart from Itsuki and Tsubasa are stripped of their performa. While Tsubasa is taken into the Idol's Field dimension, Itsuki follows, and both are attacked by hostile mirages. Awakening to their performa, they use it to cleanse their mirages. With help from Toma, the party free the host from the hostile mirage's control, restoring order. Leaving the Idolosphere, they encounter Maiko, who offers them positions alongside Toma in Fortuna Entertainment, so they can both forward their entertainment careers and help fight Mirage attacks alongside Kyria. They are aided by Tiki, who is suffering from amnesia similar to the other allied Mirages. So that's the basic rundown, but I have to ask, did you understand any of it? Neither did I first time playing through. In the beginning of the game, they just throw too much at you hoping to understand what's going on, and they don't explain until like late into the first chapter. What's a Mirage? What's a Mirage Master? What is Performa? What is the Idolosphere dimension? How is it created? How did Itsuki know to use Performa to cleanse a Mirage? Seriously, how the fuck did he know to do this? How did Kane become a Mirage Master? Why is this bitch chest bouncing around the place 24/7? And all this shit isn't explained until like late into the first chapter, like I just said, and that's no way to tell a story. You shouldn't throw a bunch of stuff at your readers expecting you to understand what's going on, then explain it all at the end. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. Take a game like Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. What's the story? You're a soldier who is sent into a black hole called the Schwarzwald to investigate its phenomenons. Boom. Simple. And the way they build up the story is how it should be done. Explain as you go along. A lot of people may be asking, well, what's the Schwarzwald? How was it formed? Easily explained before you even step foot in it. And as you progress through the game, more is told about the game's story. They don't just throw you in there not knowing what anything is, and they surely don't throw a bunch of stuff at you at once expecting to comprehend it all. Just take this for example, okay? Take for instance, Persona 5. Persona 5 starts at like around maybe the 5th chapter, okay? They start with your heist and everything, you get caught, and you're thinking, whoa, I thought this was like, this isn't the pizza that I ordered or any... I'm sorry for that. But you know, a lot of stuff is going on, and you're thinking, well, what's all this? I don't know how any of this works, right? But then, you get a flashback. You go all the way back to when you first became a Phantom Thief, how the group was formed, how your powers work, how all this works, and it's told as you go along. That's what Tokyo Mirage Sessions should have done. They should have started at like maybe the 5th chapter or the 4th chapter, whatever. They should have just done that, and that would have been fine. If they just started at the 4th chapter, thrown everything at once, and maybe just did a flashback and then explain as they go along, that would have been fine. If they just explained as they go along instead of just like throwing everything at once, then explaining it all at like the last second, you know, it would be fine. Okay. I know I'm harping on this too much, but seriously, this is a very poorly written story. And on top of the story being poorly written, it's super uninteresting. The setting is generic, the story never seemed to keep me engaged, it never got better, and the character interactions were uninteresting as well. Everyone just seemed to have the same generic trope you find in every single anime. Teen boy with short hair who secretly cares for the heroine of the story, tries to be a badass, and usually saves the day. Kirito, Sword Art Online. Okay, how about teen girl who is clumsy, wants to make everyone happy, super embarrassed about everything, and most importantly, has a dark past. Onodera Nisekoi. Fucking lolly! I mean, this really just seems like your generic anime you'd watch on accident on some streaming website. And now that I think about it, this probably would have been better as just an anime, not a full-fledged JRPG. And the jokes, oh, the jokes are just so bad. Not once did this game make me laugh at all. The only funny aspect, I guess, was Barry. Barry's a fat weeb, and that's all you need to know. Occasionally he does some bad English, which really is the only funny thing to hear.
Shut up! Oh, kids with no! Stop! Stop!
The story is just bland. It's very boring, never got any better, and I have to ask, why the fuck is it revolved around J-pop? J-pop! I mean, that baffles me. The same games that featured bodies getting cut in half, kingdoms being reclaimed, kings being slaughtered, all this shit, and you go from that to J-pop. I don't understand. Why? Why? I don't want to think about it. Moving on to gameplay, we have some stuff that you may find interesting. I at the very least found some gameplay elements decent. Before we go into battles, let me just explain a couple of other things. First and foremost, I should mention that this game is very easy. As long as you don't carelessly rush into battles knowing you're low on health, you'll be fine. Just remember to heal often. Money as well is extremely easy to obtain, and healing items are very low in price. On top of all that, you don't even need to waste your healing items. You could just leave the dungeon whenever you want, go back to HQ, and heal up for a very low amount of money. You can also save wherever you want, which truthfully I don't like because I believe that takes away any form of difficulty from a game by just saving willy-nilly wherever you want. I mean, take a game like, again, Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. Pretty tough game, and save points were very scarce. This meant that if by chance you got surprise attacked by an enemy, game over, and you would have to most likely traverse a long distance once again. And you know what? I enjoy this, because it spikes the difficulty of the game and forces you to be more cautious on what to do. And that's not the case with just Strange Journey. RPGs in their nature tend to have some kind of challenge or risk factor. I mean, that's what makes them fun. I mean, yeah, it sucks that you lost to that boss or that enemy out in the overworld, and yeah, you probably have to redo some stuff, but whose fault was it? Yours. How are you gonna fix it so that it doesn't happen again? So here's how the game plays out. Story, conflict, dungeon, repeat. The story sucks, we already went over that. The conflict falls under story. Now it's time to talk about the dungeons, and this will probably fall into the battle system as well. Dungeons in this game, like everything else, are very easy. Very simplistic puzzles, very basic designs, yeah. Not much else to say other than if a little more thought was put into these puzzles, they could have actually been maybe fun. Enemy mirages randomly pop in and out of the dungeons, sometimes ahead of you, most of the times right in front of you, so you either accidentally run into them because of the bad controls, or they catch you by surprise. If you do manage to not get hit by one, they're super easy to avoid and dodge, but it is recommended you fight often, so you can level up and have a chance against the boss. Well, what about the battle system? Well, it definitely has its ups and downs, and we'll be going over a lot of it. First, just some little things that annoyed me. These are just some slight hindrances that annoyed me. First off, the camera in the battle system sucks. Why does it have to focus on the characters first, then on the enemy? And if you don't choose anything, it just always focuses on the characters. They don't focus on the enemy at all until you actually choose to attack. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I think there are two enemies out on the field, but they're actually three, one's hiding behind the other. The other thing that really irritates me is how each time you choose an enemy to attack, it repeats the same line over and over again. Why is this a thing? Okay, so when I was going into the battle system, I was expecting something like Persona, where the user is granted one more turn each time they find a weakness, and maybe even have all-out attacks. However, to my surprise, I found something different. So to start with, the battle system does take some aspects of Shin Megami Tensei. The layout is almost exactly like Persona's. You have to find the enemy's weakness just like every Shin Megami Tensei game, and the same skills like Zio, Dia, Agi, etc. are featured in this game. When you find an enemy's weakness, the player is granted a turn called a session. When the player triggers a session by finding the enemy's weakness, the two other NPCs can follow up with an attack, but only if it correlates to the enemy's weakness. So let's say that there's an enemy weak to Zan. If you attack said enemy with Zan, your teammate will follow up with a special session move called Wind Strike. And if by chance your other teammate has a Zan related session attack, they will follow up as well. And I gotta admit, I do enjoy this just a little bit. I mean, sure, it's not as fun as something like Nocturne's extra moves or Persona 5's One More system, as well as baton passing, but it's still enjoyable at the very least. There's not really much more to say. It's a battle system trying to be its own thing while keeping some Persona aspects. Which, by the way, this game is just Persona 4, but worse. The design of this game just screams two words to me: generic and lazy. This is a freaking Wii U game released in 2016, and the amount of effort put into this game is just bare minimum. Everything from the lazily made walk cycle to the extreme linearity, it all screams unpolished. I'm gonna list the stuff that is bad with the design, why it sucks, and yeah, so here we go. The graphics. This game looks ugly, and it's clearly evident when I see the first in-game cutscenes. Everything just looks washed out, and it doesn't help that some textures, for instance Tsubasa's hair, looks completely awful. Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne looks better than this. This game was released in 2003. A game that is now 14 years old looks 100 times better than a game released in 2016. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounds? The only thing that looks passable in this game are the Mirages you fight with and maybe some enemies. Xenoblade Chronicles X looks better than this. Super Smash Bros. Looks better than this. And the fact that this was probably the last JRPG release for the Wii U, this is insulting. This is extremely insulting. The animation. Admittedly, the animation for this game doesn't look awful. That is, the actual hand-drawn animation, which, by the way, repeated the same scene. Past that, the animation that does look bad is the 3D hand-drawn animation. I really don't have a better term for this style, so please bear with me. I don't know how they managed this, but this kind of animation looks both stiff and bouncy. I really can't find any better words to describe this other than it looks unnatural, like it's slowed down for some reason. The best way I can describe it is in this Curia cutscene. She seems to be moving slowly, stiffly, and a little bouncy, but when it cuts to the audience, their arm and hand movements are at a normal speed. I really hope you see what I'm talking about, or at the very least understand the point I'm trying to make. Also, I think the mouth movement isn't matching up with the lyrics in this cutscene, but I can't tell because the camera keeps moving away from her face. There was an instance, however, where it didn't match up and it can clearly be seen. The point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't look good, and it's a little easier to see in this cutscene. I mean, really, why does it have to bounce around so much? And do you want to know the people behind this animation? Studio 4 Degrees Celsius, the same people behind the animation for Catherine and Asura's Wrath. And I'm seriously hoping they just did the actual animation and not those terrible in-game cutscenes. But I guess we'll never know. Linearity. For a JRPG, this game is extremely linear. I would go as far as saying Final Fantasy XIII isn't as linear and limited as this game. You may be asking, what do you mean by limited? Limited in the sense that you can barely go anywhere. From what I've experienced, the two places you're restricted to are Shibuya and the Idolosphere. That's it. And I'm not including the shops to buy items or anything like that, because that's essentially saying, I can only explore this one town, but there are 3 shops I can go to, so there's plenty of variety. It doesn't work like that. Not to mention, you can't even walk around Shibuya freely. You have to cross the streets, load the next screen, then you're at your next destination. Are you actually serious? So how an open world should work is by dropping the player into this really large map with plenty of secrets to find, side quests, mini bosses, houses, landmarks, yada yada yada. Tokyo Mirage Sessions kind of did this right by adding side quests, but that's really it. Take a game like Xenoblade Chronicles X. Sure, not the most fun game in the world, but you gotta admit it has a very large map for you to explore. Plenty of enemies, mini bosses, you could do side quests, and you get to do what you want to do. Wanna just take in some nice scenery? Go right ahead. Wanna kill some enemies? You go do that! Best of all, it's nowhere close to being linear with how big the world is. Still not convinced? Okay, how about Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo, more commonly known as Final Fantasy IV. This game was released in 1991 and was probably the first big open world RPG for the Super Nintendo. You can traverse the land on foot or on a friendly chocobo. You could travel through the deserts, in the ocean, or even in the air. You can even go to the fucking moon! The world was very large and expansive for a Super Nintendo game, and I strongly believe that this game offers more for you to do and explore than Tokyo Mirage Sessions. A game that is now 25 years old. 25 years old! Has a better open world aspect than a game that was released in 2016! I seriously can't freaking comprehend this! Miscellaneous stuff. This is just stuff I couldn't find a category to fit under. So to start with, idle animations. Seriously, what the fuck is this? Or this? These just look so stupid and out of place, like who in their right mind thought this looks good? The choice system. Your choices don't matter in this game. Sure, there's a true ending, but you only obtain that by doing all the shitty side quests and talking to everyone in the epilogue. No matter what choice you select, it always goes back to the better choice that you didn't choose. I seriously thought that maybe there would have been a chaotic, neutral, or lawful path in this game, but no. The game that they were crossing over that has a very well made choice system is somehow completely butchered in this game. Why? Jack Frost. He's featured as a mascot character for some store, and they couldn't even call him Jack Frost. Instead, his name is He-Ho. You know, seeing this, it really makes me curious as to how restricted Atlus was from adding their source material into this game. Maybe Shin Megami Tensei was too much for this crossover to handle. After all, it is rated T instead of the usual M. We'll touch upon this in a minute. Disk crashing. You heard me right, disk crashing. You know a game is bad when it continuously crashes on a cutscene, forcing me to restart my Wii U.
The game is so fucking bad, it crashes on a fucking cutscene. Like, give me 1 minute and I'll fucking show you. Alright, get ready for this. Get ready for this. Get ready for this. Get ready for this. Watch this. Watch this. The game just fucking crashes! You have to be fucking kidding me!
And you know what? Apparently, this wasn't the only instance. Crashing was noted further ahead in the game by other users. The only way I finally managed to load into the next cutscene was by literally mashing the buttons on my control pad. I can't even begin to explain why this is bad. Why does this happen? Is the game just too much? Did the game just give up? Voice acting. I'm not going to talk about this too much because there is a way to mute the voice acting, but it's awful, okay? It's just, nobody ever shuts the fuck up. They're always talking. It's just constant noise in your left and right ear throughout the whole entire game. Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea how annoying it is to have voice actors constantly fucking talking? This is why in games with a lot of dialogue, it's not all voice acted. Some of it is voice acted, and some of it you just have to read, which is fine, it works. This is why I hate fully voice acted games. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Why does everything need to have a fucking voice actor? I didn't understand it with Apocalypse, and I don't understand it with this game. Laziness. Some of the shit in this game just screams laziness. My favorite example is the crowd of people colored different. Sure, it looks alright, but then you start to stare at them and realize they're the same exact models. Instead of doing something that looks better, that being just modeling a crowd of people, which mind you isn't too hard, if they just did that, it looks so much better. Or maybe keep the same aesthetic and not copy the same fucking models. And it doesn't help that at times they're completely stiff. What is this? And it doesn't end there. Tsubasa's hair, the linearity, this shit. I mean, seriously, it just looks like they went to Google Images, looked for something that could fit there, and just copy and pasted it. Someone seriously approved of these actions and thought it looked fine. This is dumb, this is stupid, this is lazy. This is unacceptable for a game that on the Wii U, on the freaking Wii U, that was released in 2016. The music. Okay, let's calm down a little bit and talk about the music. The only saving grace this game has is its music. It's not bad, but it's not too memorable either. At the very least, I can say I was slightly bopping my head to some of the songs that were meant to be upbeat and catchy. The slow songs I really couldn't care for except for maybe one or two of them, and some songs trying to be catchy didn't really sound too good. But I mean, I can't really lie, some of the songs were actually pretty good. My favorite probably being Black Rain, as it reminds me a little bit of Initial D. And you know what, for a game revolved around music, I'm glad that the soundtrack is worth listening to. Words cannot express how disappointed I would have been if the soundtrack was bad. Censorship in the West. The localization to the West was an absolute nightmare with this game, and I don't even know where to begin. It's honestly a lot to cover, and it'll only add on to the video. So, if you'd like, please check out Censored Gaming's video on Tokyo Mirage Sessions. It covers a lot of bad transitions to the West and explains in detail the decisions made regarding these censorships. It's a really good video too, check it out. Finally, I would like to explain how this game completely fails as a crossover between two beloved franchises. Guys, I hope you realize that not a single character from Shin Megami Tensei was featured in this game, except for Jack Frost, but I'm not even including that since they couldn't even use his name. Would I have wanted to see Demi-Fiend singing J-pop? You know, probably not. But for a crossover game to not cross over any characters, does that make any sense to you? That's like saying we're gonna make Marvel vs. Capcom, but we're not gonna cross over any Capcom characters. The only characters that got the spotlight were some Fire Emblem characters, but even then, they were only Mirages. They aren't important to the story. This main character that we have never seen before is important to the story. These cast of characters that are not in Fire Emblem or Shin Megami Tensei are important to the story. So two IPs that were supposed to cross over with one another didn't. Like it said it would! I'm sure this goes without saying, but this is not how a crossover should work. The only other instance I've seen a crossover fail completely, and this can honestly relate a lot to Tokyo Mirage Sessions, is SNK vs. Capcom for the Nintendo DS. You have two large companies with multiple IPs, such as Mega Man, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, Metal Slug, the list goes on. You have so many opportunities for storytelling, so many crossovers that would work perfectly, and so many IPs to work with. How did they cross over the two companies? Card fighting. Yep, you heard me right, this is a card fighting game. The story doesn't revolve around SNK, Capcom, or any of their IPs, they're just trading cards. Instead, the game revolves around a cast of characters nobody cares to know about because they're not from Capcom or SNK. If you're gonna cross over two IPs, or in this case two companies, why do it like this? Why do it in a way that will piss off the fans and not have anything to do with what a crossover should be? And it's not like any of the Fire Emblem characters are easily identifiable, except for Tiki and maybe Chrom. Without any knowledge of this game, any knowledge, who's this? I'll give you 10 seconds. Kada from Fire Emblem 1. Alright, that's a tough one. Who is this? 10 seconds. Kain from Fire Emblem 1. Okay, still tough? How about this one? This one should be easy. 10 seconds. Tharja from Fire Emblem Awakening. What's the point of including Fire Emblem characters that they can't even be properly identified? Sure, they look cool, I guess, but honestly, wouldn't it be cool to see an actual Chrom? Or an actual fucking Tharja? Did you know that this Aversa is actually this one? Where's the fucking resemblance? And like I said, the story doesn't revolve around them. Sure, they may be part of the overall cause, trying to regain their memories and get home, but they're not the ones interacting around Shibuya. They're not the ones interacting with one another. They're only there so this game can say it features them. Sure, they aren't playable, and yeah, they aren't even in the overworld, but they're still there, guys. We've even added Fire Emblem sound effects, so it's obviously a crossover. What a joke of a game that claims to be a crossover. If you want to play a crossover game that's actually good, play Marvel vs. Capcom. Or even games like Project X Zone 2, a game that actually has Chrom and Lucina in it as playable characters. Crossing over with stuff like Capcom and Namco. I mean, Project X Zone 2 is what a crossover should be. And honestly, that's it. That's Tokyo Mirage Sessions. A huge waste of time, but an even greater letdown. This game is seriously one of, if not the worst JRPGs I have ever played. With its boring story, decent but forgettable gameplay mechanics, absolute laziness and disgusting graphics, linearity, and the generic settings, characters, and interactions you'd see in any low-rated anime, this truly is one of the worst JRPGs on the Wii U. And I really mean that. And the fact that this was supposed to be a crossover between Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei just hurts me even more. This game could have been great. This could have been the game that goes down in history. But in the end, it's just bad. The only saving grace this game has is its soundtrack. If you really want to, go give it a listen. I won't stop you because it's actually pretty good. That is seriously the only form of enjoyment I got out of this game. That and maybe the battle system, but that's really stretching it. That being said, I implore you to stay away from this game. There are plenty of other RPGs on the Wii U that you could play that are 10 times better. Just to go over some, Child of Light, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Paper Mario, fucking Mass Effect 3 is on the Wii U, guys. Mass Effect 3! And honestly, if you don't want to play those, go play the games that were supposed to be crossed over. Fire Emblem games are easy to emulate unless you want the 3DS experience, and all the good Shin Megami Tensei games can be easily emulated as well. I am done with Tokyo Mirage Sessions. This game has haunted me ever since its release, and I'm finally glad I get to put this shit to rest. I hope to never touch this game ever again, and it's time to end this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys on the next video. And be sure to stick to the end of the video for the credits for some explanations from me. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, I guess. Hey, you stuck to the end credits like I said. Hey, good job. So now you get some explanations from me as to where I've been and what's going on with my channel. First off, I want to apologize for the very long wait in the video. I've just been extremely busy with finishing up my high school year, but I finally graduated and I'm going to college now, so hopefully my schedule will be freed up a little bit more, but you know, indefinitely, like I said before, this is just a hobby. I don't really care about views anymore. I don't care about how many subscribers I get. It's nice to know that some guys care about me and stuff like that. I'm glad to know that people want to subscribe to me. But honestly, college is more important and YouTube is just a hobby. Not saying that I hate YouTube or anything like that. I love YouTube. I love you guys, but you know, it's just not my #1 priority right now. I hope you understand, and this doesn't mean that I'm gonna go on 5-month hiatuses or anything like that again, but I'm not gonna do like weekly videos or anything like that because that's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work for me, and I would rather you guys wait like a month for a video that's actually full of quality and quality control, and rather than just like have a weekly video with no quality in it. You know what I'm talking about. Some of you may be asking what happened to streaming on every Saturday. I've been kind of lazy on that, and I do apologize for that. I'm hoping to get back into the groove of streaming every Saturday, but usually nowadays I'm working every Saturday, so I mean, I get home late, so I probably have to change the streaming schedule, but I'm hoping to get back to streaming every Saturday. If not, maybe stream even during the weekdays or something like that. Just keep an eye on my YouTube channel. Keep an eye for that video that says I'm streaming, and you guys can hop on whenever you want. If you really want to, I think turning on notifications would help with that. So I think if you turn on notifications, it'll tell you what videos that I post, and maybe you'll get a notification saying that, hey, I'm streaming, go hop on. Yeah. If you didn't know, I have a Twitter, go follow that. I post all the time on there. Questionable stuff, but most of the time, funny stuff. Ish. I also have a Discord server. If you didn't know, I'll leave the link down in the description below. Go join it. You can say hi to me, and I'll probably cuss you out. But whatever, you know, you talk to me. And you should be very happy, yeah. Keep in mind, I do have a backup channel, which I post sometimes on. Most of the time it's shitposting and 8-bit remixes, but I do post on there sometimes, so I would recommend subscribing to my backup channel. That's going to be in the description down below. And if you want to see me more often to play games, I'm on Losers Play with a couple of friends of mine. I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. If you're tired of me waiting for me posting a video a month and stuff like that, you know, I'm active on other stuff. That's my backup channel. And that's the other channel that I play games on. Losers Play and my backup channel. Go subscribe to both. Go watch them. Whatever the fuck you want to do, I don't care. Yeah, that's it, I think. So, thanks for watching. Be sure to spread the news about this video. Join my free gift card giveaway. Pretty shitty joke, I know. You all have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.